Hello, 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 and welcome to another Daily Code Fun. I am One Lion, and today is Community Day. Sudden Gun, thank you so much right off the bat for a resub. Wow, 7 months of subscription. Holy cow. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you being here. Dukasoft is here as well, playing around with the bot with the very, very few commands that I have in the bot. Hello, Scott. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Oh, and Abaddus is here. Hello, Abaddus. Oh, man. So I just rinsed out my coffee cup, and my hand still is slightly wet, and it is really, really cold down here. So getting frostbite on my fingers. Um, let's hop into today. Today is Community Day. It's a Friday. We like to do Community Days on Friday. And what I do for Community Day is if anyone has a topic that they would like to discuss using their beautiful voice, then I invite you into Discord. All you have to do is join join the stream rating room, and I will pull you into the hidden stream room, and we'll have a conversation about whatever topic it is. No pressure, no worries if you don't have any topics. I will hopefully one day have some topics that we can discuss. And we can do that either via chat and talk or voice. But if no one has any objections, live coding did give me some interesting stuff to look at regarding what I'm stuck on, which is understanding how to mock stuff in our X unit. More specifically, learning how to mock the DB context. So this is our Discord. Live testing. We got live coding and we got live testing. So this is what he provided. There's this in-memory DB test example. Okay, and I haven't actually read through this yet. Did I get a new camera or change setup at all? Nope. Well, the one thing that I did is I created this scene, which doesn't look like much. Maybe I'll show you what the scene actually looks like. Yeah, I should be able to. When I'm ready to start using it. So right now I'm doing a lot of learning about Unity coding and AR development, but this is going to be the HoloLens stream. It's going to be great. And this looks like, yeah, it's going to be great. So we'll get to that. We're back at the welcome screen. And Tommy is here. Hello, Tommy. So I'm not getting very far because I've been doing a Coursera course and it's instructor led ish. It's like pre-recorded video lectures and then a few assignments or one assignment at the end of every week. And I've been doing them pretty much all in a row. So I'm kind of burning through the course material, but it's all pretty introductory stuff. The very beginning of it was Unity 2D kind of stuff. And Sudden Gun wants to shout out Ghost Ninja and Live Coding. They really helped me a ton with my project. Yeah, I see a ton of conversation going on with the crazy stuff that you are working on, doing some C++ integration, it looks like, and calling C++ code from your project, setting up wrappers and a ton of craziness. Shout louder. This is as loud as I get, Dukasoft. Except for when I do the random laugh thing. Okay, so what I would like to do is read through and understand this. This is not best practice. This method is to show you the bare minimum code to do EFDB context testing. And so oh yeah, he gave me a link. He gave me a link. Didn't he give me a link? He gave me a link yesterday or something at the end of the stream. I can't remember. I can't remember. We definitely need the in-memory DB. So let's go ahead and grab that. Put it in here, which I might already have. I do. And I'm using 6.0.9. Oh no. Okay. So we do a new DB context options. And I think I started following this example before he even did this. We get a new DB context options builder. We tell it to use in-memory database. And this is just giving it a random name. So it doesn't really matter. Configure warnings. This might be something that we don't have. So this is going to ignore whenever I try to do begin transaction. How often do I code? Scott wants to know, how often do I code and how long have I been coding? I code Monday through Friday at minimum from 4:30 to 3:30 p.m., including stream time with a break for yoga and hygiene stuff. Then after the stream, it depends on how I feel that day. Or sorry, after work. After the stream, I'm working again. And then after work, it depends on how I'm feeling that day. I'm either working on the bot, doing tutorials, hanging out with my wife, watching TV shows, watching movies, playing games, whatever we happen to do together. So yeah, it's at minimum 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And then most evenings. And then how long have I been coding for? Since 17, maybe it was 1632. Maybe even earlier than that. It's been such a long time. Hygiene stuff. We know you toilet code. Well, I mean, I'll be brushing my teeth and I have my phone next to me and I'll be like, but I'm usually playing pinball. I'm so addicted to pinball. Not vampire. Shadow. I told you. So officially, I started my first actual programming. I can't say that either. So 1996 was probably the first time that I got my hands on VB6. 1998. 1998. But before that, I did QBasic, playing around with QBasic, nothing official, nothing super crazy. And then before that, we had a Commodore 64, so a little bit of BASIC, and not much, not anything. I'm 40, so I don't know what that means, whether that's close to your age or not. Whoa, my pant leg is super duper staticky, and it's all holding on to my. I can't. You thought I was 25. I'm sorry. So yeah, 2000 was when I started university, and I did Java, C, C++. It's normal university curriculum, Notepad and a compiler. And then we used a program called BlueJ for visualizing our code, doing class diagrams, UML diagrams. Yeah, it is a nice compliment, I guess, but I'm not even really. Even if you thought that I was older than I am, okay. But thank you for the compliment, I guess. Um, I'm just me. I'm just me. So then it took me a long time to graduate because I failed my entire first year. So first it was just the first semester. I moved out of my parents' home, lived on my own for the very first time in the dorms, tried alcohol for the very first time. So I guess I'll give this story real quick because it's not on YouTube yet, I don't think. So I tried alcohol for the very first time in my freshman year of college, and I ended up really, really enjoying alcohol, maybe more than I should have, and ended up just not really doing very much schoolwork, doing a lot of just exploring, exploring all of that realm a little bit too much. I was still in marching band, so that was a bonus because every Friday night before a game, we had a drumline party. Speaking of drumline, uh, Disco sent me a video of the um, cadets, Gardner cadets. I can't remember. um, the 1985 one. Did I go to band camp? Of course I did. Every summer from like 2000 until 2006 or 7. I can't remember when I actually stopped doing marching band and was like, I'm going to focus on my schoolwork because I want to graduate. I want a computer science degree. And anyway, I failed out of my first 3 years almost. And then I was working full time at a call center doing overtime just to pay for my university because, you know, failing out, you kind of don't really get scholarships and stuff, um, and financial support. My parents were middle class and just above the cutoff, so I didn't get very much financial aid that way either from FAFSA, I think is what it was called. I got like a $100 or $250 scholarship that just about everyone gets, and it was bad. There was this one time at band camp, there was this Game Boy. What? And so, anyway, long story short, it took me 9 years to graduate college, um, while working full time, going to school part time. I don't understand how U.S. people can live in the U.S. as a student. Yeah, it's crazy. You do a lot of debt collecting, or not collecting, accumulating. And unless, of course, you did really well in high school and you applied yourself and you went after scholarships actively and you got funding, then you only accumulate some debt. You're still going to accumulate debt most likely, even in a full ride scholarship. So, with that, uh, I was trying to make this long story short. I ended up getting a job at Fort Riley working in the human resources office for the entire Southwest region. And I was servicing an Army installation called Fort Leonard Wood. I was a classification clerk, GS3, if that matters to anyone. And I went from working there through college to graduating college and being in the student career program. I went to my official position, which was located at Fort Leonard Wood. So I relocated from Kansas to Missouri in 2009, became a human resources specialist, worked there for another 5 years. So I ended up working. Yeah, anyway, by the time I left, I was a GS11. So I started at GS3, made it to GS11, went to work for the Department of Veterans Affairs in 2014, did a whole bunch of macro coding. Somewhere in there was the project that I worked on with the actual programmers for Department of the Army at headquarters. and I helped them with a couple efforts twice, 2 3 month developmental positions. Then I went to the VA, worked for the VA for another 3 years before it was just like too much of an environment that I was not happy with. I was really, really disgruntled. I did not like going into work. I drank a lot, was an alcoholic by then, and made a whole bunch of mistakes. And in 2017, I was like, something needs to change. I need to get out of here. So I ended up getting my first non-government job that was for software development, and it was scary, but it was still a government job. It was here at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal, and uh, it was a contract position. Like I was a full-time employee, but it was for a contract company, and blah 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 blah. Worked on that for another 5 years, and then this year, 2022, I got the new job at Sagetti, working as an actual consultant, doing Maui Blazor development and having tons of fun. I stopped drinking in 2017, haven't drank since then. Maybe a couple slip ups, but for the most part, just yeah. So in sum, I've been doing official .NET development since 2011 and VBA macros from 2003 to 2011, Access, Excel, and then my own MVC projects and stuff. So yeah, that's my story. Now you know about me. Happy Community Day. um, Moral of the story is don't give up. Apply yourself. Self-motivation will take you a long way, even if it's just this much. Self-respect will take you even further, even if it's just this much. Yes? So Scott is like, I don't understand how US people can live in the US. As a student, here we have free education and citizens above 18 get $1,000 per month before taxes. That is awesome. Of course not, Avidus. So Avidus was like, that was super interesting. I assumed you were a software master from the start. Not even close. Like, I felt so far behind everyone else that I was going to classes with. And I'm like, all of these people, freshman people that are just starting university, already have 5 years of experience doing software development or more. Like they started when they were 12 years old, some started when they were 8 years old. And I was like, I can't keep up with you people. Why am I even trying? I'm not going to get anywhere in life, especially now that I know alcohol is so enjoyable to me in a unhealthy way. But yeah. But I ended up just like I don't really think that I learned software development while going to university. The thing that I learned was again that self-respect, self-motivation, perseverance, and yeah, determination. I don't know if I already said determination. Yeah, it was good. It was a good experience, but it was a terrible experience, but I'm glad I had it. You know? You know what I'm saying? So, if anyone else wants to share their programming life story, we still do have the chat room open, the voice channel open, and we also have text chat where you can share there. But for now, I am looking at this. So yeah, we get a new DB context and then we get the in-memory database. Cool. Cool. So what if I called this my DB context mock? Do. Where's the thing that I'm looking for? Does anyone know what the thing is that I'm looking for? I'm looking for create DB context. Where is the setup for create DB context? Yes. Stay a while and listen. Right here. I'm kind of curious to see what this does. So the only thing that I've done is I stopped using my mock DB context, and we're going to use this in-memory DB. I do need to add I do need to create my seed data for deposits for my lookup tables is what I need. Okay. Sudden Gun is going to share something. Are you going to type more than this? Should I wait until you type more? Or is it just this little burp? That's it. Okay, so Sudden Gun said, I just turned 30 and feel incredibly behind when it comes to coding, and it sucks because it's something I want to now do full time instead of IT. At least I still enjoy IT work, just not my current grunt work job. Awesome. I'm so glad that that was encouraging. I really do like to share that story to. I don't understand how I could be viewed as like I don't know. Just like sometimes you guys make me feel like I'm smarter than I actually am, or you think that I'm smarter than I actually am, because there are a ton of things that I struggle with all the time. And I just hope that I can show that with these things, just perseverance, for me specifically, because this is how my personality works. Perseverance and all of the other things that I said are the things that get me through it. And it's not that I'm super smart or anything like that. It's that I just don't quit. And I do it. I push through as hard as I can sometimes. Uh, yeah. And then you do tend to pick up things. I have this cognitive function called introverted intuition, which just means that, and I've mentioned this before as well. The way that introverted intuition works is I see a whole bunch of information and then I find lines that connect each of them, and then I boil everything down into some kind of pattern that I can use so that whenever I have a new situation, I feed it through this pattern builder and say, here's what the outcome is going to be. So it may seem like I know a lot of stuff, but it's a lot of guesswork based off of using these patterns, which means if there's something that I didn't account for in this pattern, some detail that gets lost, then I'm going to be missing a whole bunch of things down the line that are like, I completely overlooked that little detail. So mine is like about broad concepts boiled down to patterns that I can apply to as many things as I can. Scott said, I started 2019 with coding and loved it since. That's my whole story. Awesome. President Usher said, and hello, President Usher said, don't worry, I'll make you feel worse than you already do. Yes. Bam, bam. So I'm also a body type, which means any kind of offense that you guys give to me, I feel physically, and it hurts. Just so you know. But I will act like I'm not offended. Wow, today is a get to know the little lion day. We're gonna debug this and see what happens. I'm playing drums right now. Cause watching that video from Disco, man, it was cool. It was cool, and he shared it with just me, so I was hoping he'd show up so I can ask him if I can share it with everyone. Cause it is such a clean sound from the drum line. The brass, I mean, if you guys don't know what DCI is, it's Drum and Bugle Corps International, and it's a competition marching band situation where there are marching bands from different regions, different cities, and they all compete in this massive competition. Go figure. um, so anyway, he showed me a video of the DCI drum corps that he was a part of back in the 80s, and it was a year that they won first place, and it sounded so good. It sounded so duper super good. Ooh, we actually made it here, and we have our in-memory DB context. Ooh. And we made it through the create transaction, the begin transaction. Sudden Gun said, I did purchase a standing desk. Awesome! I got 72-inch desk and it's huge. I overestimated my space and I'm wondering if I should downsize or try to make it work. I will have to figure it out. But the desktop is heavy. Not sure how FedEx got it up 3 flights of steps. Must have had a dolly. Yeah, this desk is insanely heavy, so I can imagine what that one would be. This one is, what brand did you get? Is it an autonomous? Is it a, oh, the brand that Nerd Herder was suggesting as well, but it didn't have an L shape. Vari, I believe that is the one that Nerd Herder recommends too, or uses and likes. I got the autonomous standing desk that looks like L-shaped. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to remember what the actual desk model is called, but I'm pretty sure it's this one, except it is black. And I put the short end on the left side. It's a really nice desk, but it's heavy, like you said. Big and heavy. Ooh, dark mode desk. Heck yeah. I've really been wanting. Oh yeah, it absolutely is. Absolutely is live coding. Hello, and I just finished implementing the in-memory DB. We got past the begin transaction because I used that option that you provided, which was configure warnings, ignore in-memory event ID, transaction ignore warning, which is awesome. So now I'm actually just going to finish stepping through this, and then we can go through the second example that you have, because that looks so much cleaner than what I'm doing. So I haven't actually read through this yet, but if you feel like talking us through it, then yeah, I'd absolutely invite you into the stream room. But let me finish stepping through this. So I created a new deposit object. We're adding it to the DB. Ah, memo is a required field. We got an actual failed test for a real reason. Yes. It tried to do save changes and it's like, memo is a required field for this table, but it's not. So I need to fix that. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be really good. Boo! So good. All right, I'm inviting live coding into the stream room. And inviting live coding. No, you can hear me.
Yep, I hear you.
Okay.
Happy afternoon. It's not afternoon for you, but happy afternoon for Tim.
Almost. I mean, it's close enough. It's only an hour off. That was exciting. I got so much further in this just by using your in-memory DB suggestion that you suggested at the very, well, you suggested not testing, but at the very, very beginning after suggesting not testing.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to just, I don't know. Like I just watched another presentation about unit testing, and I don't know. I think, by the way, I do think strict unit testing of like individual classes uh, just is useful because it applies design pressure.
Mm.
And that was the subject of a video I just watched. But then I disagreed with the conclusion
Ah,
um, of his video. So you're not allowed to
yeah.
watch that video. But I do.
Yeah. Isn't it annoying where it's like,
mm,
all right, yeah, this is cool. I understand that concept. And your conclusion, how did you come to that? What?
Yeah.
You were going a good direction. Why did you turn that way?
Yeah. So anyway, life is good. Uh,
Yes. I just
yeah.
found an exception that I wasn't expecting to have, which, wait, if this is a nullable field, why didn't Entity Framework pick it up as a nullable database field?
Maybe in the database it's not. Let's see. This is where the mapping, and this is where. Let's see. No, I don't know. I think you can map a. Is it auto mapping for you? Like, aren't you supposed to? I don't know. I have no idea how Entity
Oh,
Framework works,
yeah,
and it's
there's a couple
these
things
specific
that
things.
it will do for us. So like, wait, that's scheduled transactions. Where's transactions? So I can explicitly tell.
Wait, it
Oh,
says nullable false.
yep, yep. I can explicitly tell Entity Framework that I want this field to have these settings and properties and stuff. And so here we have my memo, which I'm sure I configured to tell it max length, but I didn't explicitly tell it that it's not required, that it is nullable. But because I made the model a nullable string, Entity Framework should have known that it's not nullable, and it does. So the in-memory database is the one that's saying this field is not nullable.
That is possible. I don't know. See, these are the little details where, like, I was telling you about IDs, by the way, where you're basically going to be unable to test IDs. Um,
Like for
maybe
auto
maybe
ID.
it'll give something back to you. You just can't trust what it gives to you. Or like foreign key constraints, especially if you set them up. Anyway, whatever. There,
Hmm.
just beware. Like anything that's not in this page, that it's part of an entity framework mapping, is like suspect. It's
Hmm.
sus.
It's
That's what the
sus.
kids say. That's what the kids say.
Hmm.
They say sus all the time. So you're saying in entity framework, it allows you to enter this stuff. You've specified nullable false on line
I didn't
178.
know.
Am I
So
crazy?
that's the one that got created by migrations. So yeah, this one is this is where I specify the information, which will show up on your screen in a couple minutes.
No, that's it's pretty quick.
Wait.
It's required.
What the
There you
hell?
go. See, welcome to
This voice sounds sus, says Tucson. Oh man. When are you streaming again? I miss your streams.
all right. Hey, you can watch me just stare at Gary's monitor or whatever for 4 hours every night, and I'll just like stare at it and I poke something, and then I'm like, well, that's weird. And then like I actually accidentally looked at one of their methods for like, here's how to rotate here's how to rotate a vector, and you're like, okay, well, I'm looking at the code, and they use sine and cosine interchangeably, like on 8 different lines in a row. And it was like, here's an easy calculation that will do for you. Like, what I'm getting at is I'm okay at trigonometry.
Uh-huh.
However, I'm not a 3D programmer. So like even things like that, like, hey, get this citizen model to look in my direction. That's what I was doing for about 45
Mm.
minutes. Anyway, I spent about 2 hours making force ghosts. That was my goal, was to make force ghosts, and I uh not really, not so much. But
Force Ghost,
hey,
is that what you were saying?
Force Ghost, like Star Wars. You know,
Oh,
like that scene at the end of the episode 6 where they're all waving or whatever. That's what I wanted.
nope,
No,
don't know.
all right, you're allowed. You're not allowed because those are the classics. You're allowed to, anyway,
I
whatever.
mean, I know the Star Wars trilogy,
Hmm.
or is
Yeah,
that what the original three are called?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I know those, but I don't know them because it's been so long since I've watched it. But that's about it.
Okay.
I'm not a
Um,
real nerd, damn it.
they were at the Ewoks. The Ewoks were celebrating,
Okay.
and then the Force Ghost waved goodbye to him or whatever. Like, all the Jedi. Anyway, let's move on. um,
I don't
so y'all
mind.
actually had an interesting desk conversation, but you're about to pass. This test is moments away from passing, right?
Yeah, it is.
In theory.
Once I do add migration, I was trying to see if
For
there
the
were
record.
any other fields that I have required that aren't required.
So maybe, oh, okay, so you're telling me you have to run, not have to. So this is an interesting workflow for me. So I have never had automated database migrations. Well,
Oh,
yeah, I
yeah.
have. I did at the beginning, and then once you have your beginning set up, I then had to do it all manually and add my own SQL. A good name for a function that appends HTML. We all suck at naming, Danky.
Yeah,
Uh,
naming things is hard. Hello, Danky. uh, HTML appender. Or actually,
yeah,
no. Is it the action of doing the appending and then you return back the HTML, or doesn't really matter if you return back the HTML, but append HTML maybe?
append worksheet names,
Append
HTML.
worksheet names.
Just keep
Yeah.
adding words. That's what I do. And then I end up 70 words long. No one, like, people lose their train of thought about halfway through reading the name. I really
just
do.
re-
I'm terrible.
just remember that methods are verbs. So whatever you're doing and then the thing you're doing it to usually works. Or the thing that you are getting, for example.
All right. So this is interesting. So I'm learning about entity framework migrations. You said add migration and you gave it a name and it kind of auto figured out what it was doing. This is interesting.
Yeah, okay, so let me just show something real quick. We totally looked at it backwards. This says nullable false, which means it's not nullable, which means we're not allowed to be null. And now we're setting it to nullable true.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It just appended already. So what happens is there is a snapshot of what the database should look like currently,
Mhm.
and then you make changes to the schema by making changes to the models themselves. That's a terrible model to pick. So if I added a column, if I renamed a column, if I changed the type of a column, all of those are things that would need me to create a new migration so that if a new developer picked this up, I don't even know why we keep the old migrations for new developers. So if an existing developer picks this up, they have their own version of the database on their local machine and they want to get it up to the current version, then they would have this migrations project and do update. Well, let me show you what it generates first. Script migrations, script migration, singular. So it takes the combination of all four migrations and it says, here is what we should do in order to complete the first migration until we do the add. This is the first migration done, which you'll see very shortly, line 236. And then this is my second migration until the next insert into EF migration history, and then my third migration, and then this most recent migration. And so what Entity Framework will do is it'll ask the database in your migrations table, what is the most recent migration you have applied? And mine will say add amount to deposit and transfer. And
Okay.
it's like, okay, in order to get up to the most recent one, we need to run all of this SQL script from after we did the insert add amount on down. So that's all of this stuff.
Um, and so let me ask and I'm still in learning mode.
Oh
So
yeah.
let me explain. I have migrations through, I think it's migrator.net or something. Anyway, I've tried a few of them. So I currently have a SQL Server migration, and we just dump SQL scripts in there, and then it just runs them. And when we need
Oh
to add
cool.
one, we dump it in there, and it runs the new one. And if it already ran the old one, it does a similar thing. So let me ask, how are you getting these into your various environments? I mean, you
So
don't
that
have an
yeah,
environment for
yeah.
this. Let me ask realistic, like not this app.
Yeah, yeah. Like one of the apps that I have at RMA where we have a dev environment, a test environment, and a production environment. And we have a database for each of those. So that one is a little bit more difficult because we use the user secrets, and I'm allowed
Mhm.
to open mine because I don't really have anything in here except for Angie database that you can't see at the moment. But even if I showed you, it's just
Well,
Angie.
and it's fine. So you have user secrets to check the connection string, and you run it, I
Right.
guess.
Yep.
Okay.
So as long as the project that I'm doing the EF migrations, at least through the package manager console, as long as the project that I'm using is something that has a DB context configured, which this one does, and it points to that specific connection string, then that is how I would apply these migrations. However, when I'm publishing this to my test server, one of the publish options is to run migrations when you publish. Another one is in your CI/CD pipeline, you just run migrations through there. Another option is you take the generated script, copy it, paste it into SQL Server Management Studio, and run it on whatever environment you're trying to. Another option is update your connection string in the project itself to point to the appropriate environment. Quick, copy the secret.
I think he had integrated authentication. I don't think there was a secret, but I might be wrong
Nope.
there.
Just my
Anyway,
database name, which is Angie SQL, but you'd need to know what port it's running on, and because it's not running on the standard port.
oh, it's not. That's what you claim anyway.
That's what I claim
Um,
anyway. I could be lying,
I mean, it's
or it
smart
could be
though.
port.
So go ahead.
And
Okay. Nice.
the
So,
port is also closed, so nothing else can access it from the outside.
okay. Yeah. I'm just curious. Okay, so it does emit SQL for people like us who need to do
Yeah.
that, and it
And you
does
can
all the other
also
stuff.
add SQL yourself. So the one thing that you can't do by just using code is, let's say that I had a view, new folder, view, and in that view, it's my full transaction history, or maybe I want only deposits. Deposits. And that was a combination of transact int transaction ID and blah 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 blah, all of these other fields from different tables, but that doesn't actually create a view, a SQL view, in the way that you and I would understand what a view is. So if I were to create a migration for this, this would be empty, my migration file that gets generated. But I could manually go migration builder .sql create view dbo dot deposits as, oh, right.
Now,
And
this
then
is the
write,
danger zone.
yeah, and then be able to write my SQL for creating the view. And then I would also do in my down, because if you ever want to remove a migration, it will run whatever's in down. Then it would just be migration builder dot SQL drop view deposits.
Oh, probably that's it. Um, All right, now you brought up a topic. All right, back to the test. Can you run it? And then I
Absolutely.
will give
Well,
you
I need
the
to
direst of
update.
dire warnings.
I need to
Go ahead.
update real quick because I
You
don't
actually don't
have.
need to update any databases as long as the code's right. This is part of the mystery of the unit test. I mean,
I mean, true.
technically, it
Yes.
wouldn't be
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's in memory database and it does the migration when it creates it and stuff. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we have.
Right.
Um,
Where
so
is it?
I have, well, actually, I'm waiting along. All right, what do we got? The
I'm
secret,
already
nice
lost. That's
view,
where we're at.
excellent joke.
Test. There. Go. Oh, it's still going to fail. I forgot. Because the thing that we're actually verifying is that add was called on the mock database context. I don't need that breakpoint anymore. But the thing that I want to know is, do we get all the way to the bottom of this method? Or we do, but when we get to the bottom of this method, was it an error or not? Was error is false, which means it actually added to the database and it gave me an ID.
Yep.
And so we're gonna say assault not assault not nert, assert not null result. Result. I want to do this one second. Result was not an error, and then add was called on the database and save changes was called on the database, but or add was called on the table. But this is going to use the mock DB transaction set, which is
So
not
none
good.
of those things can work anymore. Just lines 96 through 105.
Yeah, which
This
is
is the
now 98.
approach,
Yep.
or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so that's where your example comes into play.
Yep.
Cool.
So can you access the DB context right here?
Yes, I put it in a thing called context.
So do entity framework magic to pull this record from the database
Oh,
or this,
var new deposit equals transactions include deposit, and it's just going to be first or default because I don't have any other records in here. Or this is not a bad idea. Record ID. The record ID that we get back from our result should
Okay.
be the new record ID that we can look up.
Yeah. I have no idea how this in-memory thing works, but it should honor, if you've specified in the EF mapping somehow that this is an auto-incrementing ID, it should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that
I
it
have
gave us
no
2
idea.
back, so I hope. That's the hope. Okay. And then our
How's
next
everyone
assert,
in
I'm
chat
assuming, is this is not null, which IntelliCode wants to give me anyway, or maybe that's CodePilot. CodePilot, he says. And Jim is here. And also, I didn't say hello, TPO Kid. Hi, TPO Kid. This is live coding. Oh, you know what? I don't have.
It's for the best. It's for the best. Just move on.
No.
Look, it's for the best.
I can't just move on. Actually, I have no idea where the overlay is. So that's weird. Sometimes it doesn't show up, sometimes it does. What a jerk. It's turned on currently. Turn it off and back on again? Nope. Anyway, it's live coding. And Dukasoft gave you a shout out. That's awesome. Nice. Nice one. Yeah, normally I have the Discord overlay on the top left. But it was there yesterday when you came on. Yesterday? 2 days ago? You're muted.
I am muted. I look, I'm a big gulper, so like I take a gulp of water and then I unmute myself. That's the theory. Anyway, it's all good.
Did you hear any of my gulps?
I'm not, but you have a pro mic. I am using
It's not a pro
a
mic. It's crisp. I promise. You can have the crappiest mic in the world and Crisp will
hmm,
fix it. I
I do not
recommend
have.
Crisp. Hashtag not sponsored. It's
Okay.
free.
Okay.
KRISP.
Interesting. Well, think about it. Because I gulp a lot, especially at
But I
work. I
mean,
do this
like
at work.
your sound is amazing as it is. You sound clear, at least to me.
USB mic.
USB mic. Plus, Discord has Crisp built in. I forgot about that. You should try gulping because I bet you I won't be able to hear it because of Crisp.
It's gonna get clipped. Oh, nice. Very nice. Perfect.
That came out of nowhere. The
Gonna
Zeman is
send me
back.
to the doctor.
Okay, so anyway, you have more for me to test here?
All right, so what are we testing? So here, no, that your thing says new deposit, assert, not null. This is okay. Let's finish this test.
Yeah,
Forget the
yeah.
rest of the
Oh
examples.
yeah,
So,
all of this stuff can go away. Or
okay,
maybe I can keep like this stuff here. We won't need
yeah,
to
yeah.
test the account ID because that's getting tested here by finding the record. All right, tell me, tell it to me.
Okay. So I don't know. I think with this one, you were literally inserting like a single thing, right?
Yep,
You
just
were
one
inserting a
record.
single row in the database,
Yep.
not even multiple tables. Okay. Then there's not much to assert. In theory, you can assert each new property on this new deposit.
Which is this.
Uh, yeah, but you have to break it out now that it's.
Oh, okay.
And I do like this broken out style better. I mean, you could put like a big
Well, I could do it
assert
here.
equals true, but it really is better to do assert equals because then you
Okay.
actually know what's different. Oh
So for
goodness,
all of
those.
these, I would do an assert equals, and then the first thing would be my new deposit, new new deposit, and then the second thing would be whatever it
Wait,
is that I'm
actually, could
testing.
you look at the definition? It's always the reverse of what you think.
Oh
I think
no.
it's expected. It's always expected first, or it was an end unit.
Okay, I'll do that. And then this one is going to be is not null, not null. Deposit. All right, so the IntelliSense says object A, object B.
Oh, okay. So they don't. All right, they're smart. That's smart. All right, leave it.
It
So
says
end unit made it very
deprecated.
clear. Do not call. Do assert equal singular. I think that's
Oh,
the X
equal.
unit way.
Oh, okay, that's better. And now
And
it
if it's
says
A and B,
expected
oh
actual.
no, oh no. Well, welcome to the
That's
rest
not
of your
hard.
life. Just start a counter on how many times you get it backwards, and once you get to like 50, then I guess celebrate it, and it'll happen. You'll make it to 50, and you'll have this reminder like, oh, it's expected actual, and the whole point is the error message. Like if an assertion fail, you want to say I expected I expected the thing on the left side, and then I got the thing on the right. And if you got them mixed up, you're kind of confused for a second. It's not that big of a deal.
What just happened? I lost
Um,
part of this. So new deposit. You should have been new deposit. not ID, dot deposit reason ID is supposed to be O1. What was the other thing that I tested on this? Amount. Nope, that's account.
Sometimes, if you have made a view model up above, steal from it.
I did. I'm not seeing. Oh, wait. I'm backwards. Holy cow. I totally did that wrong, is what happened.
Enters up to 2. We'll make it pretty quick.
What did I call this thing? 2add, maybe? Any guesses? No. 2add. Transaction date. Dang it. All right. Duplicate you. New deposit. Dot deposit. Okay, there we are. And you are not. You are. And you are not. Amount. There. Oh, and memo, I guess. So essentially, and this is okay, do you think? Or is this just whatever? Like testing each of the individual properties to make sure that it added the record correctly. Because I guess the only thing that I'm really testing is, did this method complete without errors?
I like verifying every bit of useful stuff.
Awesome.
And this, so at least once, like on my happy path, I will verify every field. And again, it's a single logical assertion, so you're feeling fine. If you want to break your test fixtures or whatever they call them, such that you have one single line assertion for each test, you're welcome to do that. It's just,
Oh, yeah, that doesn't make
just
sense.
some
For me.
frameworks make it easier. I will say, like, what is it? The JavaScript framework I love. They all adopted this style where they make it easy to do that kind of thing. It's just not as easy as C Sharp. Anyway,
Cool.
so yeah, you could have really easy one line assertions in the JavaScript with descriptions on them. Anyway, whatever. I'm good. This is what I prefer. Uh, and what else we got? Can you run it? The
Yeah.
verify.
Yep.
Verify's still there. And I have a few
Verify.
notes.
Yep.
I am leaving soon. I will
Oh,
be
okay. I'll try to do
35.
this
I should
fast.
leave it. I should leave soon, but I will. I'll get it
Okay.
5 more.
It is running and I grabbed the wrong window. Okay, so we have line 101,
Don't match up, Scott.
not
That's why.
null. Say again?
Scott's asking a question in chat.
Oh, assert
They're not
dot
the same
r
object.
equal? Oh, okay,
It's
so one is a reference check and the other is a value check.
I have no idea. I hilariously I stick to very vanilla stuff. So I do use in unit I use collection assert, which is pretty quote advanced. Where you
Yeah,
can,
and this is X unit, so I don't think I have R equal. There is a strict equal though.
there will be something to check the properties, but your properties don't match up. The point is the view model is a flattened view of the data, and your whatever your
Yes.
entities are
Mm-hmm.
not a flattened view of the data, so it won't work
Correct.
out.
Yeah.
Um,
So they're not even
I
the
will
same data
say,
type, in short.
yeah, but it's a reasonable thing, and there is a whole assertion framework that we use, or the other guy really likes it. I'm afraid of it, but it's called approval tests. And if you have a giant object structure that you're testing, you can just make a text file that has like basically a JSON representation of what you want to see in C sharp. Like, so instead of these 5 lines for a single object that we wrote, you would throw an approval test and it's a single line that says approve, and or at least that's how we do it. And then it will check every single property of a complex object hierarchy, which
Okay.
is overkill. Don't think about
I think I just lied to you though.
it. Is it not?
So I said that it gave us an ID of 2, but that was actually the number of records affected.
Okay.
So that was
Oh,
record
okay.
count instead of the ID.
Okay.
And I was like, why is this thing telling me that there's a null record? So we'll see if this thing here gives me the actual, and that actually happens after the commit. We'll see if this thing here is the one that gives me the actual new ID in an in-memory database, which I think you're saying might be a gotcha.
Oh, yeah. Um, well, I don't know. Let's hit the debugger with the test and see what it does. I just don't know what it does.
Cool.
Like once you pull
So,
back the record, let's see it. Oh, wait.
okay. It gave me an ID 1. So this would have been the model that we created up here would have been created with an ID 0. And then after the save event, it gets populated with the new ID, the ID for the new record is what I mean to say. So that looks good. Now we look for a new deposit, and we have our new deposit. It is not null. The deposit navigation property on it is also not null, which means we have the relationship from the transaction table to the deposit table record. Transaction dates match, memo matches, deposit reason IDs match, and the amount matches, and this test is green.
All right, congratulations.
Yes, thank you so very much
The
for making
TDD,
that
the
so much
key.
easier.
It's 3 steps. It's red, green, and then feel bad about yourself. Those are the 3 steps. Red, green, feel bad. That's
Oh, I
that's the
think we're going to be
order.
able to continue with this now. Let's see what the actual. Thank you, Tyron. Let's see what the actual runtime is for this one test, because this is going to essentially be the same setup for all of my ads, and it's going to be 1.4 seconds per ad, and we're only going to have 3 ads.
That
There
is
might
slow.
be more for the
You know what?
list management.
Ignore the speed. Sorry, ignore it for now. Like
Okay,
you don't have 1,000 of these. Like, just
true,
keep in mind,
true.
like
It's going to be at
there,
most
there's
10.
there's two things in real life that will break this. Number one is raw SQL, which is inevitable, by the way. Like having a SQL view or a SQL stored procedure, or I don't even know what. Like a SQL query, I think EF has that raw SQL query
Raw SQL query, yep.
feature.
Or it's just
Uh,
a set of dot. Yeah.
well, that's the deal. That's the deal, Tyron. We're making that DB context right now in the test method, so
Yep.
we're not sharing it at all. So there are anyway, whatever. I would say just ignore it for as long as possible, and then maybe make a helper method to get the DB context, a fresh one every time. But like, if you don't reuse the DB context, it's so much easier
Mm.
because you start with an empty database. And that way you can get an idea of like what seed data you need for each test, and then you
Exactly.
kind of get an idea for which seed data you need for every test, and then you build it slowly.
Right.
Um, yeah, fast
Which I
forward.
am going to be
Look,
kind of curious about when I try to see the data. So I do have my mock data generator, or as well as my seed data.
but anyway, you're gonna have to for a real app. You inevitably have to drop to a real SQL Server database, and everything gets harder. And I've added SQL-based testing to my last 3 projects that I worked
Mhm.
on to 3 realist so it seems like it is a common need that you will not see the community doing very often because there is like this dissonance, like it's so ugly to do raw SQL and it takes a lot more code, a lot more than 2 lines, let's put it that way, or whatever that was.
Right.
That's why you're in the good zone right now. EF in memory is a great situation. Oh, all right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I should be bailing.
No,
But
you're
all
good.
right, I
You're
have
good.
one more thing. Can you go into your method that we're testing?
Yep.
Not the view model, I don't know what the name of your surface is.
This is the method that we are testing.
Okay, add transaction data. So you run a validator at the beginning. This is on you to decide. Now, line 40, you
Right.
can decide to mock that or not. But this is like an obvious test case. Like,
Yeah, where
is
the
it valid?
model
Is it
should
not
be
valid?
valid because I'm creating the view model myself. But that could also mean if I don't mock that, then here I could also be testing the model validator if we make changes to the data annotations on that view model.
And I don't, this is where they talk about, this is a simple table, but like assume you had really complex validations somehow, then I guess you would want to mock it out. You could do either way. My point is it's not going to be 8 hours of trying to mock it out properly. It'll be a single mock where you say either return true or return false as I desire for this test.
All right.
So that's all I'm saying. So
Like, I
I
guess if
think
I
you are
really
doing mock.
wanted, yeah, yeah. Well, I do
Okay.
have mock in here, but this validator here is coming from a new instance of it while I'm doing setup
Okay.
somewhere in here.
All right. So I guess that's all I am pointing out. All right. Chat, questions from chat. We're here to, I don't know, talk about the MASH
Anyone have
episode
any
we watched, which was a little,
questions for live coding? So I did
it's about,
use, that's another show that I used to watch regularly.
there we go.
I loved MASH. Potato. Suicide is painless.
Goodness.
Chad isn't here right
So,
now. Can I leave a message?
excellent.
Yeah, so no question. So definitely really, really, really appreciate everything that you gave us. I'm going to clean this up now and then work on generalizing it, I guess, to make it plug-inable, reusable everywhere.
Right. And I will get back to work as I should be doing. But I did lunch break. Hey, this is lunch break kind of, but
Yeah. That's
all
what
right,
I use
I
it
got to
for.
go.
I do a 2-hour lunch break and then I get back to work.
All right. Later, sir. It's been fun. And
Ciao.
this is fun for me.
It's
That's
been
why I did
super
this.
fun.
Yeah, I did this for Sun Gum too, and this was different for him. But like, anyway, I enjoyed it. He was like, "Thank you." And I was like, "No, I actually enjoyed this." So
Tikasa
it's fun to
says,
do.
everyone say thanks to live coding or else.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you, live coding.
Yeah.
This was
All right.
extremely helpful.
Later, y'all.
Ciao. Good times. That was so cool. So once I clean this up, I'm definitely happy to take any comments or suggestions on doing this differently. So here is my DB context factory that I need for passing into my constructor. So I am essentially, we have completely undone the entire mock approach that we were borrowing from MKB. And instead of having this system under test automatically created by inheriting from class context, which is this abstract class that does all of the dependency injection and the parameters and all of that stuff, because I'm using things like IDB context factory, there's extra setup. Well, I guess the one that was the most difficult for us was the lazy of, you know what? We might still be able to use his approach, but it was the lazy of validation. Deposit data entry view model validation. Validator. Whatever. Anyway, that thing broke. So I guess the only thing that we aren't using from that approach is brain just disappeared. The only thing that we aren't using from that approach is the DB context. but we are getting the DB context factory, and then we're creating a new DB context using in-memory database. And then we're going to seed that if we need to in any of the tests for like get all, for example. Yeah, so this setup lookup tables. So I want to work on these helper methods. You know what's kind of weird? I didn't see the DB context, and it didn't give me a reference exception, a foreign key constraint exception. I didn't get it. Can we start from table one? You know, we should start this entire testing thing over from the very beginning so that we can have a nice clean. No, I'm not going to do that. We made it this far. I'm just going to hold it together with duct tape and keep moving on. Oh, jeez. Help? I'm being held gunpoint by a penguin. Oh my goodness. Broken Sword is here. Hello, Broken Sword. We have our first passing test. Tyrant says, would be fun to have live coding and I both talking in your ear. We give you completely different and opposing ideas to all of this. Yes. So I don't know. We can write the transfer version of this, which is the exact same thing except for the transfer table with slightly different references. New set. Okay, so here is prepare the data to be added. Prepare a new service instance. I guess deposit entry service instance. Oh, thank you so much, Broken Sword. Broken Sword gifted a sub to Tyron. 46 gift subs. Good grief, man. Tyrus versus live. Tyron versus live. When? You know what? You know what'd be hilarious? If live coding never corrected us and he actually intended his name to be pronounced live coding, like you are living the code. But I guess that means that it can be used both ways. Refresh. Refresh. I need to refresh? As a noted scientist, it would be quite surprising if the girl blinded me with science. What? You did to get your sub badge. Sugat, you have 2 amazing emotes. They are the best emotes ever. Use them everywhere. My emotes are not that impressive. I'm really, really grateful to Bob Ross for creating them, but they're. I have 2 emotes. I probably should get on that, shouldn't I? No need to refresh. First message after you sub. First message after sub. You, just you, can't see it. Everyone else can. I flashed him. I can't. Not allowed. Maybe I can go to about here. Oh, he almost showed skin. Oh my gosh, he almost. What kind of stream is this? account age, Google Games. It was created 8 years, 7 months, 2 days, and 21 hours ago. That was your first account. Holy cow. Oh my gosh, I almost saw your toes. My bare toes. Um, what's my account age? I could just click on my name. 9 years, 16 days. I've really had this account for 9 years. That does not sound right. Are you sure? That does not seem right. According to this, I created this account September 6, 2013. That does not seem right at all. And Dukasoft, 9 years, 5 months, 3 days, and 3 hours. Holy cow, that's 5 months longer than me. I'm live coding. 10 years, 7 months, 6 days, and 14 hours. Oh my goodness. Was Twitch really around for that long? Are you hacking? It does not feel like I've been watching Twitch for that long. What would have been 2013? Were we playing Ion? We were playing Terra. And I think that's what I created my Twitch account for. Is that when we were playing Terra? Gosh. We played Lineage until we got hacked. And that was maybe 2011 or 12. Yeah. And then shortly after that, I just don't remember. I think we went to Ion after that, though. Maybe we did Terra first. I don't know. Live Coding says I got on Twitch for StarCraft content after watching a ton of HD StarCraft on YouTube, which was in 1080p, very rare then, absolutely was rare. I got a plasma TV that was 720p. Maybe it was only 480. Bang internal age. Oh, thank God. Why didn't how was live coding able to do bang account age and it gave him his account age, but Tyron did it and Sudden Gun did it and it didn't? That's so weird. Oh, there's a cooldown. But if you put the name, there isn't a cooldown. Oh, the cooldown for non-mods. Duh. I special. I know how streaming works. Gotcha. 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 Yup. Yup. But yeah, 8 years, 6 months, 12 days, 16 hours. We all joined Twitch in a like 2-year time span, except for Dukasoft apparently. Or not Dukasoft, Settinghead. I got words. But yeah, this is good. This is really good. We don't need to do this. We don't need this. This is the setup for returning our DB context. I'll put it up here with the rest of the DB context setup. My Teams is refreshing. How dare. What else do we want to keep? So I would like to keep this somewhere. So I would like to put this maybe in I would like to put this maybe in one of my other testises. Okay, so get all deposit entries. I just want this to be here. Okay, so at least I'm keeping that so I don't lose it. Tyrant says, I mean, I used it back on Justin TV days, but that doesn't seem to count here. Sudden Gun said, I meant to say thank you for the VIP. Just noticed it. You don't have to thank me for that. You are what you are. A VIP. Very important person. Speaking of, oh yeah, wait, maybe I did try this already. Creator dashboard, settings, moderation, settings, channel, community, role manager. Yeah, I think it was that I couldn't find you. Labertaki, you're the one. Every day, you're. There you go. There you go. Material. I'm just not keeping on top of this. That's what the issue is. I'm terrible at keeping on top of things. Close this. Whoa. So that's so weird. I gave you VIP and it took away, or it completely changed your all access pass. Why did my DB migration got pages? I don't get it. I will answer you in a minute. DB migrations got bored, so we gave it tables. Obviously. Oh, you changed your badge, right? It's just weird. It happened like at the same time to my eyes. What does you look like? That's what it is. You look like. Save. Done. You just keep doing it. Okay. Okay. My owl. Bring it back. All right, so Tiger Pleb says, why does your migrations project have a pages folder? So I've tried using a console app for my migration project. And every time that I do that, it fails on me. So I'm actually going to go ahead and try it real quick. I don't have any reason not to try it. I like to have as lightweight a thing as I can. And, well, I guess the most lightweight thing that I could do is just use a class library that has entity framework, or not even class library. I could use my FinanMan database project and put my migrations in there and use EF Core CLI. That was really hard to think of. Use the CLI for EF Core to do the EF migrations. And I've tried it before, and I could just be doing it wrong. But here is my FinanMan migration C, let's just say. So it has a different name. And we configure this thing. on here to be connected to the database. We add EF to it. So lazy. So lazy. And we in program.cs. So I guess this is what I don't know how to do. How do I add the database context in my console app? So there are well, there's actually another thing that I need to add to this. I think it was something like you change the SDK to sdk.web. And then we could do var builder equals web application.create builder. I'm just doing this from off the top of my head. And I can't push backspace. That's fun. Hello? Maybe I just need to close this file and reopen it because that is extremely not happy with me. Goodness. Ah, I got a DM. I got it. DM. So you get configuration. Is there any of this that I can take? Yeah, so there's this add user secrets thing. What is up with this file? Holy cow. There is something very wrong with this file. There we go. Maybe it was a stuck key. Never mind. I think my keyboard had a stuck key. Isn't it if its whole DB project worked fine with console app? Like the hard thing with Entity Framework is getting the dependency injection into your console app using either app settings or secrets. He showed his secrets, everyone. I can't believe it. I'm showing it again. Okay, so it looks like then I didn't need this to be .web. So let's go back to not .web. Reload the project. And instead, we are using this. Why doesn't build? Okay, do I have my keyboard back? And then this will be from user secrets, which is easier if I just go manage user secrets and tell it to add the package that way. Save that. Okay, and then environment variables comes from, is this one of your own things? Or is add environment variables from, yeah, okay. That's what I thought. It's for your Docker stuff. Yep, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so then the next thing that I can look at is where you're doing the actual DB context setup, which again, I think you are doing your own custom stuff for the DB context. So for me, I think I am supposed to get the service collection for sure. I don't really care about logging in this case. Why are you tabbed over so far? This little window needs to go somewhere else because it keeps getting in the way. So maybe we will, just because it's there. And what? It is apocalypse. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you were falling asleep, welcome back. Oh man, that's another dependency. Microsoft extensions logging console, says Tyron. Scott. That one is so crazy. Okay, and we'll get that in a second. And this is where we would do add DB context, use SQL Server, which means that I need Entity Framework Core. This is from database. That's logging. Okay. That builds the services provider. And I shouldn't have to do anything else. That's it. So I should be able to set this as my startup project, go over to my package manager console, set this as my project and my target project, and do add my, oh, he says wait, initial create. All right, so it seems like maybe there's still something else that I'm missing. But that's what this is. I'm not trying to run the migration by running the console app. I'm trying to manage my migrations by using add migration initial create. Or whatever I want to put down here. So this is the thing that I'm wanting to keep. The ability, so like the way that you have it set up, does it create the migration folder when you do the .migrate? Because it sounds like the way that you do it is you run the console application and that's what does the migration for you. And if it's easier for you to talk, still have the voice channel open. Otherwise, I will wait patiently. No, I want a project. Yeah, and I don't want to use the CLI, the EF. Oh, I do need EF. You are right, though. You are, well, I have it. I have it. Sorry. Yeah. I remembered to add that one. That was the very first one that I put in here. Oh my God, I was right about something. I was thinking you meant the .NET CLI for EF. So The entire goal of migrations is when you make a change to your database, you create a file essentially that is how do we get from the previous version of the database to this version of the database? And then keep track of here's a snapshot of the current version of the database. Yeah. So I want to be able to do that, but with a migration or with a console project instead of a full. So, like, the original question was, why does my migrations project have a pages folder? And I don't need the pages folder because I don't use that. I only use this project as my placeholder to be able to run migrations against my database in a separate project. So all of my migrations are in this project called database.migrations. To keep it separate from my DB context and models. So my models project is intended to be, I can use this in any .NET project, regardless of whether it's client side or server side. The database context is intended to be used on server side only for something that can communicate directly with the database. And then the migrations project just keeps all of these files out of either of those two projects. So what I'm trying to do is instead of using the migrations project that is a full ASP.NET web application, use a console project to do my migrations. Oops. And I think the only thing that I need is to say finan man.migrations C. Yeah, so this should work. And I was agreeing with you. I don't need migrations assembly. Yeah, so this is a typical approach for creating database migrations. No DB context was found in this. Oh, yeah. So this is just saying that no DB context was found. So my service provider is not actually getting built. In a way that's allowing me to have access to the DB context. So I'm pretty sure that I need the use migration assembly since the DB context itself is in a different namespace or a different assembly. I could try that. Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Scott. Yeah. And so it's not finding this DB context. Let me make sure that the secrets does say default connection. It does. Referencing what? I don't have any red squigglies to tell me that there are missing references. Okay, so dash project finan man migration C. So is the project that you have there, the data access project that you have there, is that your Yeah, so you have two different, yeah, okay, I see. But it's still weird though, because you would assume if I didn't specify those, it would use the project that I have as my startup project and the, um, what is the second one? The regular project. Regular project is this, whatever I selected in this dropdown. And then the startup project is whatever I have here. So if I selected, for example, this is my startup project, yeah, then I would need to be referencing this console app from whatever it is that I'm trying to add the migration to. So yeah, if I do it that way, then that should be how I currently have it set up. So if I do startup project Finan database migrations, then this is telling me that I need a reference from here to migrations, and then it should work. Yeah, and then that makes my assembly this project. So in both cases, I need that web app essentially. And so if I need that, then why not just use the one project instead of making two projects? But what I was hoping for is some way to use just a nice lightweight console app to do this. And I still think that maybe my initial thought is correct. So we're going to follow that train of thought and just see where we get. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep using this ASP.NET project for it. Oh yeah, Swaymer's here. Swaymer came in. If you guys have not seen Swaymer, definitely check him out. I don't know if, yeah, Dukasoft is on top of it. Of course he is. So he has been streaming his work in making AutoCAD, or just CAD extensions. And I think you're using Blazor lately. No, you're using, are they WinForms apps, I want to say? But he switched over to use Entity Framework, is what I meant to say. So yeah, give him a watch. He's very laid back. He also games on occasion. Slowly taking away 11 Lion's job. You're just doing a better job than my bot, that's all. Yeah, DLL, WinForms, Entity Framework API, all kind of goodness. Yep. I remember. So I'm usually lurking on your stream, even though I don't talk much or at all. But I'm usually lurking whenever you're streaming. One of the people in the shadows, just hanging out on your stream. And I do want to answer you when you get stuck on some things, but it's yeah. I'm better than a bot. Thanks. You're welcome. So here was my thought on this. I do want to change this back over to a .web. So Tiger is just really, really stuck on this. Is this common? Who cares if it's common? It's the approach that I'm taking. But my answer is yes. This is a common thing that you would do with your database. You wouldn't normally have 3 database projects, or at least from what I can tell, most solo developers put their database in their API project. Cool. Follow me with that so far. So if it's a Blazor server project, they put the migrations in the same project. So the database context, the models for the database, maybe even the models would go in their separate shared project. And the I said DB context, migrations, and models would all be in that server-side project. I prefer, because I usually code against Blazor WebAssembly, Blazor Server, and now Maui, I prefer having my database in a separate project. And not just that, I prefer having it so that my DB context is in one project and all of the related things to that DB context, and my models are in a separate project so that only my server-side technologies reference my DB context. Only my client-side technology, or sorry, anyone client-side or server-side can access my models project, my database entities, if I want them to. Maybe I only want to use view models on the client side and not have access to this. So that is a consideration for me, and that's why I like having them in separate projects. And then I don't want to have my migration files, my migration classes in my database project that gets referenced by my main application. It doesn't make sense to have these DLLs in my main application. API Web Core implementation? My 4 typical and favorite projects. What's an implementation type? Oh, I know what implementation is. Okay. So core is all of your abstract and your shared models, and implementation are your concrete classes. Gotcha. Gotcha. That is a fantastic approach. I love it. So that's what mine is kind of. My shared project is my core, except that it includes my concrete models. And I don't know if that's typical or not, but that is the way that I do it. So long story short, Tiger Pleb, I'm pretty sure that having a separate migrations project is not unheard of, is not super weird, but typically people have been putting their migrations project in the same project that the main application server side is in. So yes, I'm going to say that this is typical. It's definitely typical of my code. Every single project that I've done that is Blazor has a separate database. It's usually a separate database solution, actually. So I would make a solution out of Finan-Man database, Finan-Man database migrations, and Finan-Man database models, turn that into a NuGet package, and then reference that NuGet package in whatever project I'm using it in. Or turn each of those projects into a migrations, turn the database and models into a migrations. Into a NuGet package. Oh my goodness, I can't word anymore. So if you are interested in seeing that approach, I am definitely willing to split this up so that the database is in its own solution. And then we have CI/CD for generating the NuGet packages. And then use a GitHub, what are they called? Feed for the NuGet packages to be referenced by the rest of the project. I think your solution is pretty massive. What do you mean by that? Do you mean that it's overkill? Is that what you're saying? Because TDD is overkill, but that's something that I want to learn, and it's good practice. Like, any of the best practices are overkill when you look at them too hard. This doesn't take too much effort at all. This is pretty easy to maintain. Other than the project size of this migrations project is bigger than it needs to be because I have this stuff. I have the pages. So that said, we're going to take this last 10 minutes to see if my thought process on changing this to a .web SDK and adding a builder, which I can't do because I keep getting stuck keys. So weird when it does. Okay, I got my keys back. And it happens every time that I change the SDK. So I would like to do var builder equals web args. So args we get from command line. Then builder.services is what we're going to do here. And this is going to be builder.configuration. Dot dot. And we can do var configuration equals builder.configuration. And basta. Yeah, exactly, exactly, Muivark. And that's why it's called best practice. So hello and welcome into the Daily Code Fun. So the project that we're working on, I've been doing my best to I can't even word right now. Builder dot uh, build. That's what I was trying to do. Dot run. Okay. I think this should work. I've been trying to get better at certain aspects of the development cycle. I'm generally the person that's in the middle working on all of the application functionality and implementing the UI design and setting up all of the connections to backend services in the backend API. And what I wanted to do is get better at TDD and the UI design part of it and just architecting the entire application as it is. I've done a little .NET in the past, but now I have .NET slash Azure Project. Ooh, that sounds cool. So that's Muivarkin saying that, by the way. I did miss a bunch of chat up here, though. Live Coding said I would prefer to put literally everything in the web project if I could get away with it. Or if you have a web app plus something else, like a console app, then I have a single .core project. Yeah. And I am usually, though, and am aware of that. I don't remember what that's in reference to. Swangler says, live coding, do you stream? Just wondering, based on your nickname Live. He does stream on occasion. His response to that is, I don't like to stream me struggling, but that's all I'm interested in doing nowadays, struggle learning stuff. That's what I'm doing on stream right now. I don't mind it so much, though. Then Scott was talking about his four typical and favorite project types. And then Tiger Pleb was telling me that I'm doing too much. We're all struggling. I don't mind it though. I love the struggle of trying to figure out a problem that I'm stuck on and then eventually coming to a solution that works. When did you switch to the Maui project? Migration C. Set as startup. I'm so blind now that I'm trying to rush through this last part. Okay, so we're just going to go back to here. I'm guessing this is going to work. It does work. So point is we can use a console app to do migrations the same way that I like to do migrations without all of the overhead of creating all of these individual files. That said, I am going to go ahead and continue using a console app for my database migrations. And to do that, Yeah, it's about time for, yeah, I have 5 minutes. Um, to do that, I think we should just be able to modify this project to gut it with not having all of this stuff. And you know what? We could probably do await run async if we wanted to. Delete the pages. Delete www root. Change out our launch settings. Not you. To just be project. Just project. Awesome. Cool, and thank you so much for the follow, Mui. So I normally stream. Did I just move that? I moved a thing. I normally stream Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time to 12:30 p.m., which is in about 4 minutes. So started 2 hours ago, and then I go for about 2 hours. On Fridays, I like to have this community day where I try to invite people into the voice channel, but I haven't been doing the best job of um, having a topic ready or anything like that because it's been quite busy lately. It's a lot less busy this week, but then I'm going to get back into it next week. But we're doing this project for this financial management application, like I said, so that I can get, I being, of course, selfish, so that I can have practice doing TDD, design, UI UX design, practice making sure that everything is prepared for localization, even though I probably won't do any translations for the app, as long as I have the ability to provide a translations file or files, we'd have that. Um, yeah, Tukasoft, shockingly the same here, because it's 8:27 p.m. for SCOD, and Tukasoft is like, hey, what do you know? That's what time it is for me too. So anyway, point is, I can get rid of this project. Do I plan on deploying? I could. So if we want to do the full, the entire process, like I haven't even done any of the systems architecture designing, systems designing, thinking about what I'm going to deploy to if I deploy. What technologies am I going to use? Containers? Am I going to use for the? Am I going to use functions? Am I going to use app service? Am I going to use virtual machines? Which I mean, obviously this thing doesn't need virtual machines, so maybe, maybe. We decided a 10-year estimate. That's right. I remember that though. But yeah, if you want to see where we are at in the project, I will be pushing all of the changes that we made today to that repo. It is open source, and we're currently in the setup transaction service branch where we are setting up all of the server-side implementations of the services for doing the things that we want to do. And just to give you a quick glance at what this application looks like, so right now it's not running, but we can still see that we can navigate around, which is really, really cool. So this is the landing page for the application. This is the main data entry. So this is a financial management application that helps you track your spending, your savings, etc. You guys slay me. Um, And so we're working right now on the thing that should happen when you click the submit button. it should send the request to the server to an API service that's just sitting there, unless we're running this directly on like a Blazor server application, then it would do the operation directly on the database where it validates the model and then adds it to the database. So what we're trying to do is TDD on the server-side services, and that would be the very first thing that we just finished today, is that first test for adding a new deposit and then validating that it gets added to the database correctly, the model validator works, and we're all good there. So the next thing that we're going to do starting on Monday is filling in the rest of the test for the rest of the service methods. Good question. That kept happening too. So Sudden Gun wants to know, how do I have 14 out of 11 projects? And I think it's because I kept changing the project type on that console app, but I really don't know. Maybe it's like 11 projects are being built. I don't know. I really don't know. Don't ask me hard questions. Did you code to get to? Yes. I guess we can count it real quick. I have a README. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I definitely have 14 projects. Yeah, no. So again, I'm doing this for very specific purposes, which is to learn TDD, UI design, and the overall full stack process, and to show it and to kind of give information about it. This is the most that you're going to get for documentation for me. I know how to write documentation. Uh, I've already forgotten what the DevOps is. dev.azure.com. Yeah. So here is the documentation I left for the previous, at my previous job, and it has everything about our organization for any new developers that I wish I knew when I first got there, how to get started with the projects, what the makeup is of the projects. Here's my normal project structure. Here's what it looks like when you open it, or sorry, here's what it looks like on disk, and here's what it looks like when you open it in Visual Studio. Here's what each of the applications do that the new developer would be maintaining. So yeah, documentation is not something I want to practice right now. This is just a community project. This is just fun. So if you want to write documentation for this, you can. But it's just a standard. Yeah, the problem is I have 3 different applications in here. And I do kind of want them all to be in the app folder, in the apps folder. I think I might do that real quick. So I have a Maui app. I have the Blazor server only app. And then I have, I'm going to call this an API, even though it is the entry point for the Blazor WebAssembly. It's also the API backend for the Maui app. Oops. Oh, goodness. Yeah, that was right. So you should be able to figure out if you want to run this project, you pick one of these, set it as your startup project, and then run the app. What? Use 11 though 3 on schedule? What? 14 choose 11? Is that what it is? What's WASM for? So this This one here is specifically the client side of the Blazor WebAssembly full application that gives you the UI. It's the presentation layer for the most part. Yeah, well, if you want docs, it is open source. So anyway, on Monday, we will continue on with writing the remaining test for these services. Hopefully we'll be able to get through all of our transaction entry tests, and then we have some lookup service tests, which is now here in shared server. So we have these two services currently created, and none of the methods are implemented. And so that's what we're writing tests for. We're writing them so that when we create the tests, we're testing for the right stuff. They should all fail. Then we write the method, we fill in the details until the test pass. And that's TDD. So that's where we're going to go on Monday. Come back if you feel like it on Monday. And yeah, I'm going to call that a day for me since I'm running pretty late. No raid from me. I hope you guys enjoy. I have no Instagram. Instagram. What even is that? Oh man. Scott, you're crazy. This can count. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I definitely had fun. This was a great week for me. I don't know if it was for you guys. Um, it was very stress free. I get to learn whatever I feel like learning. Got to learn whatever I felt like learning. I'm definitely calling it progress. Yeah, thank you for being here, Mui. Thank you, Tiger. Thank you, Scott, Dukasoft, Tyron. Excuse me, Sudden Gun. Sudden Gun. I'm glad you were able to make it. I hope it was fun for you while you were here. Um, who else do we see? Live coding. A special thanks to you for helping me through mocking the database. Swaimware. Again, remember to check out Swaimware whenever he's live if you feel like it, of course, but I recommend him. I saw Abaddis way earlier. And then anyone that didn't speak up or that I just didn't name out, you might have been lurking. You might have just been here actively. Thanks again for being here. And thank you. Wow, a sub. A sub? Thank you so much for the sub. I really appreciate that. Wow. Totally was not expecting that. You just got here and you're subbing. You're so nice. I will be back again on Monday, though. 10:30 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, which is UTC -6. That's it for me. Ciao for now. Bye.